Hopefully you will have seen on the time lapse the high point. So though, when I turn the lathe clockwise, the conrod is at the back of the crank, and that's when the dial gauge is reading the high point, which is here. As I turn the lathe, you'll see it's going counterclockwise, so that's backwards, that's to a low point, which is about there, and the rod is on this side. So that means, so it's moving a lot less than it was. It's still moving too much for my liking, so I think a bit more work on this to get it to as near as damn it. Just still knocking this side of the crank down, so to twist it back this way, and then get it as good as possible, and then be ready to put the bearings and seals in the crankcases and get the engine rebuilt. So as you can see, we're getting close, but still not quite right. So when I bring the conrod up to this side, this is now the high point. So the dial gauge doesn't go up from there. And then when it goes over round to the back, and that's the low point. And you can see that it's only moving by 0.01 mil. So I'm just going to tap it a little bit more, see if I can get it a bit closer to perfect, and then I think that'll be good enough for me. So I've now tapped the crank a bit too far, so it's now twisted the other way. So I'm just going to hopefully tap it back. Give that a go. There we go. I don't think I'm going to get it much better than that. If you watch the dial gauge, there is some movement, but not very much. So I think that's good enough for me. I'm sure some people will be able to get it better, but there we go. So now we've got the crank built and trued up to as good as I can get it. We've got to replace all the bearings and seals in the crankcases. So this is basically where the crank runs. So if we have a look here,